Truckers Podcast, FYI. I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. It is 9 p.m. here on the 15th of August. Our planet, our planet. Is climate change real? I don't know. Thank you for joining me. Well, good evening, and here we are. Oh man, what is today, anyways? It's Tuesday. Not even at hump day yesterday. I had a day off yesterday too, extended Monday into my holidays. So, anyways, yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday already. I guess hump day's tomorrow. Wow. So, um, yeah, I just did a little show last night. I don't know how long it lasted for, almost 45 minutes or something like that. On the vast amount of water that Canada has of fresh water, over 2 million lakes. That's insane. So, anyways, yeah, um, the trucker is back. I'm glad to be back. Um, like I said in the last couple of my episodes, Sunday and Monday, I'm going to say again at the beginning of the show, there's going to be, a show every evening. Um, And then, of course, I was driving, working today, and I'm thinking, um, I'm going to be taking one day off from doing the show, and that'll be on Saturdays. And then that gives me time to get shows up for Sunday and so on and carry on through the week again. And also, it's going to give me time to do um, the show that I want to do. And that was on a video that I watched on YouTube uh, with one of the organizers of that so-called Freedom Convoy, aka Karen Carnival. With She was being interviewed by Dr. Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychologist. He's written books. Obviously, he's a public speaker. And so just kind of just a reaction to what one of the organizers had to say, and me being a professional driver, um, I feel that, I certainly have the qualifications to weigh in and just, you know, break apart of what she was talking about and all the BS. But anyways, that's why I want to take Saturday off to do that video and do that show at the same time. Um, and then get that video onto YouTube. So Saturday is going to be a very busy morning to do that. And it's probably going to take a good, better part of the day to edit the video and everything and get it up onto YouTube. So you won't want to miss that episode on Saturday. So I think it's going to be really good. So thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. This is the Truckers Podcast, FYI. If this is your first time coming on my show, I thank you. If you've been here before, I thank you. I did have a bit of a break um, because of family matters. And of course, I just got off a 2-week holiday vacation, which was muchly needed. And yeah, it did me a world of good with a lot of things. And um, I'm happy to be back. And, I kind of, with everything that has happened, I kind of felt bad because I felt bad that I was, neglecting my listeners and followers, because I've had this podcast going for just a little over 4 years. And the whole month of July was just a wash. There wasn't a single show. in July. June 11th, maybe, I think was maybe the last one that I did. Because I was struggling with the loss of our father and that. So, but I'm getting through it. And, the holiday, the 2 week vacation that I took up north here in Ontario, um, being with the wilderness and fishing and boating and swimming and the grandkids and everything, it really did me a world of good. And I told myself when I got back from the holiday that I'm diving back into doing the Truckers Podcast, FYI, and this is what I'm doing. So I've done a show Sunday night, Monday night. Now this is Tuesday night, and it'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm going to work on that video, and I want to get that done for Sunday so I can do the show and have that all ready up, because I want to do the show and record at the same time. Do recording at the same time and the video at the same time. So it's going to be good. So that's why I need Saturday to do all that kind of stuff. So now I was just skimming through topics last night after I finished my last episode, and that was on Canada's vast amount of fresh water. So you may want to listen to yesterday's episode. I think it's about, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes long. So I kind of, started, because usually my shows are an hour. So just getting back into the swing of things, just kind of just easing back in doing the podcast. They're half hour to 45 minutes, and eventually they'll be right back up to that hour again. I've had shows go an hour and a half, so yeah, so just kind of just getting my toes wet again, being back doing the podcast. So like I said, I was just fidgeting around last night and thinking, you know, just brainstorming. I'm thinking, okay, what's wrong with doing some maybe controversial podcasts and stuff like that on climate change? And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a good one, because there are people out there that doesn't think it's real, and stuff like that. And that's fine. People are going to think what they're going to think. And so I think, why not? Why not just take a shot at it and see how it goes? So does climate change urgency lead to climate action? Well, are we moving fast enough? I mean, here in Canada, I mean, are we going to be hitting our targets? Probably, probably not. Every single, I guess it's April, every single April, um, is Earth Day on April 22nd. Is that like every April 22nd? I really don't follow Earth Day. Maybe I should, you know. Um, so in the past few years, terms like climate crisis and climate emergency, which convey the urgency of climate change, have grown like in a commonplace, increasing use of the tenfold. And on one hand, this is intuitive, and is climate change a serious problem? And the global community continues to underinvest in both mitigating greenhouse gas emissions and adapting to the effects we're already seeing. Well, look at, you know, I think there was, now the other, when I was talking about, over the summer, and they're still burning here in Canada, by the way. I said there was like just, a little over 400 forest fires going across Canada. It's actually over 900 forest fires burning in Canada. Over 500 are out of control. That is just staggering. We've never seen, yeah, we get forest fires. The United States gets forest fires. Other places around get forest fires. We never had it this this bad here in Canada when it comes to forest fires. Over 900 forest fires, over 500 are burning out of control. And just recently, the Canadian Armed Forces are now getting involved. Now, over the course of the summertime, when the wind change comes, blowing the smoke out of northern Ontario, out of Quebec, and, it's been blowing right down into the United States. And you can see it, you could smell it, and you could taste it. Never before, and I don't recall in my lifetime, and I've been on this planet for 6 decades. And never before have I seen that magnitude of fires and the the effects that it has, from the smoke and stuff like that. I mean, I just driving up the highway, in July, and like I said, you could see it, you could smell it, you could taste it. It made your eyes water. It wasn't good. So, and then, look at the month of July, down in Phoenix, Arizona, they had temperatures like 129 Fahrenheit for the entire month. I think it was just this past weekend. I could be mistaken, but right across the U.S. from the west to the east, the record-breaking temperatures. Here in Ontario, Canada, yes, it's been hot, um, which then triggers, severe thunderstorms, lightning storms, high winds, couple of tornadoes. Now, and on the other hand, though, it's not clear that people will make better climate decisions when they feel more climate urgency. I don't know. Am I like that? I mean, are you like that? You know, it's not clear that people will make more climate decisions when they feel more climate urgency. Doesn't seem like the government is. So, for an example, when people make decisions under time constraints, opposing forces are at work. More urgency can be focusing, but it also can be distracting. Now, so these two forces are at work for more urgency. That it can be focusing, but it also be distracting. Well, you've probably experienced both feelings as you approach the deadline. In the context of climate change or whatever you're doing, which one wins out? Well, change is more urgent. Well, just take an example, when it comes to um, focusing on something that's urgent and also could be distracting. Okay, let's take for instance, never before have we seen um, the urgency um, to help the homeless. Now, right now, here in the city of London, Ontario, where I reside, it's a population of about 400,000 people. It's not a big city. There's something like 40 to 50 tent encampments all around the city. The homeless shelters have bursted at the seams, turning away people every single night. Housing crisis, affordability crisis. Another crisis that is upon us has been upon us for a little while now. Is the cost of food. If that's not a crisis, I don't know what would you call that. With the opioid crisis, across Canada. You know, waiting for a crisis and then trying to act on it. When the crisis is upon you and then you try to act on it, you know, it is distracting and it becomes very difficult to deal with it. And now we're just slowly putting in plans, you know, to address the situation and all the situations, not just on the homelessness, but the housing crisis, the lack of housing, a lack of affordable housing, the cost of housing for even people to buy. I mean, I was reading an article the other day, and she's a mayor of a small town just outside of Kitchener, Ontario. She makes $90,000 a year. She can't afford to buy a house. At 90,000 a year, she can't afford to buy a home. Average price of a home in that area is over $900,000. Over $900,000. The urgency to build more houses is at hand. But when we talk about the environmental sustainability, and we try to answer exactly the question, we look across the wide literature exploring climate decisions under very levels of urgency. um, Drought responses in Cape Town, South Africa, offer a powerful illustration of what they find. So, Cape Town relies mostly entirely on local rain for its supply of fresh water. As a result of its growing population and the spread of the invasive plant species, demands for a limited supply of water has increased dramatically. Now, beginning of 2015, Cape Town entered a severe 3-year drought, the result of a strong El Nino, likely amplified by climate change. And by 2017, Cape Town had nearly exhausted its reserves of potable water. As day zero approached, community groups and officials launched a campaign to encourage conservation. That was 2015. Now, I look at it this way too. As individuals move to moderate levels of urgency, they tend to become more focused and attentive and action oriented. So, the moderate level of urgency. So, this behavioral experiment suggests that they seek information and they cooperate at higher levels and have a devise solutions to the climate change related challenges they face. And this is one study they said that identifies several cases where effective communication nudges people from low to moderate levels of urgency and corresponding higher levels of action. So, are we even at this moderate level of urgency? Should we already be at that? Because every time I listen to the news comes on the radio when I'm driving or whatever the case may be. With what's happened this entire summer. In the United States with forest fires, Canada with forest fires, other parts of the world with forest fires, flooding. You know, and then climate change. You know, is it only going to amplify? You know, by 2030 or maybe even sooner. Now, with this moderate level of urgencies, they showed higher levels of engagement with projects that would address issues 2 generations in the future, the time of the grandchildren in the local language, than with projects oriented 3 or 4 generations ahead. Are we thinking that way, or are we just saying, no, you know what? Our grandchildren can handle it. Their kids, our great grandchildren, stuff like that. We just leave that carbon footprint, and what do we care? We're gonna live on our lives. We're gonna pass away, and we're just gonna pass on whatever we left behind. Is that the way we're thinking? Is that the way governments are thinking? So when we get to that very high levels of urgency, this relationship reverses. People begin to direct a large amount of energy towards monitoring the risk itself rather than addressing it. So, are we at that level now? Are we at that large amount of urgency? Like, are we right at that peak where now we're just going to monitor everything? Here in Canada, when it comes to, um, taxes, for instance, Ontario being the largest province of all provinces and territories of this vast land of ours, this vast country of ours, with something like, so Canada has 40 million people, and the province of Ontario has 18 million people. We're the highest tax province in the country. So on our gas, we pay provincial tax, we pay a federal tax, and we pay a carbon tax. That carbon tax is supposed to raise money to fight climate change. And I guess it's supposed to say, well, maybe you shouldn't drive your car that much anymore. I don't see people driving their cars less. I don't drive my car any less. Hello.
Hello, I'm listening. I've been listening to your show for a little bit. It's pretty nice, and thank you for having me on. I'm not hijacking your show.
No, that's okay because I say to people, if you call in and I'm doing an episode, you're not interrupting me, and I really actually like it when people call in. So what's on your mind?
Yes, I was just hearing briefly about the environmental stuff, and it's very interesting that you have a Canadian perspective. I'm here in the United States, and I feel like there needs to be more public transportation options, but without going through, like you had mentioned, the carbon tax in Ontario. Instead, I feel that major cities, or major, provinces or states to expand and have multimodal transportation, and we're not really seeing that, especially in the US, as much, and people are too reliant on their car.
Yeah, especially like in the large and metropolitan cities like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. So like Los Angeles. But then like you got a lot of big major cities in there. Um, so I've seen like Toronto, the city of Toronto, and they have forever, for as long as I remember, they still have um, the rail cars as transportation downtown, and they've always had them. And of course, even out and now we get out into outside of the metropolitan Toronto area, um, I've seen a lot of electric buses and stuff like that, and those areas are vastly building up, um, as though like for instance, Brampton, just outside, so we got Brampton, Mississauga, North York, East York, and stuff like that, just outside of the city of Toronto, stuff like that. Their own communities. They don't have to go right into Toronto to go shopping, stuff like that. They have all their amenities there. But you're right, and not also that. Um, like London, where I reside, it's only a population of 400,000 people, and um, building more bike lanes and making the roads more accessible for cyclists and making downtown more accessible for people to live downtown and work downtown, because we have a lot of business down there. I mean, the police station's down there, the courthouse is down there, and everybody trans drives into that area, so a better means, like you say, a better means of transportation, public transportation is what we need, and keep it affordable, and maybe more people will use it.
Yes, especially too, and I'm speaking from a American perspective. Buying a car is incredibly expensive for the vast majority of people who live paycheck to paycheck, and the majority of Americans do live paycheck to paycheck. You have people loaded up with auto loan debt, which is a major issue in the United States, and we've crossed the $1 trillion mark on credit card debt. So if people can be relieved on in terms of transportation and not have to pay as much as they do here in the US when it comes to their personal transportation, it would lead to much better economic progress for each individual. And I've even seen studies that when there are genuine investments made in public transportation, it actually boosts the economy and leads to more economic growth. I have to go look deeper at those research studies, but I hope that here in the US we can really get the ball forward and move past just, investing in Amtrak and having much better public transportation all around.
Well, that would be really helpful too, because if so many people, I mean, there's still a lot of people who don't drive, and let's say, for example, they're not working because it's further away to get to work. And if you have that transportation and you have that affordable transportation, then it's going to drop you off at the door. More and more people, would be going to work. And now just here, in the city, I don't know why it takes so long, adding transit routes to the industrial part of the city and starting the buses early, because people generally start work at 7 o'clock in the morning. So they want to get the people to those areas and do less driving, because if you got transportation going there and you don't want the headaches of rush hour traffic, why not take that bus? Because it's going to be there every single day.
Exactly, exactly. And thank you for allowing me on the show. I hope to listen to more of your shows in the future. Maybe, if you ever want to, you could listen to mine. But thank you so much for having me on the program.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for calling in. Really appreciate that. See how easy that is, ladies and gentlemen, just to click on that round circle there and just call in and say, even if you just say hello, trucker, that's absolutely fine. So now, look at the cost of food. Well, we have to raise it, we got to grow it. We have droughts, wages going up, so companies and they have to cover their overhead expenses. Fuel has skyrocketed. The modes of transportation in the trucking industry, the freight charges have gone up. So, and then here in Canada, everybody's screaming and yelling at the grocery stores. Well, you're making record profits, and we can't pinch two dimes together. They blame the grocery stores for the price increases. Then when you have the weather that we've been having and you have drought and things aren't growing as well as they should be, you're not going to have the crop that you want. And you have to increase the price to sell off what you have to get it to market. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I was reading an article before I went on holidays, and grocery prices, here in Canada, anyways, aren't going down. In fact, they're going to go up. So, at the high levels of urgency, so people begin to direct a large amount of energy towards monitoring the risk itself rather than addressing it, and they become uh, despondent, distracted, uncooperative. Anxiety, fear, and stress all begin to cut off paths to the best outcomes. Maybe we experience these sort of things just in our everyday lives. So that when there's an urgency matter looking us directly in the face, and we're trying to, rather than addressing it, you know, we become despondent about it. Now, particularly the acute climate related risk wildfire response provides a poignant example. In a remote Indigenous community in the Northern Ontario, this was July 2011, emergency managers experienced sudden high levels of urgency as wildfires elsewhere in the province rapidly spread closer. Lacking time to think through evacuation plans, they hurriedly planned a partial evacuation and were unable to assure the most vulnerable were provided appropriate care. Families were separated, with members of individual households flowing to shelters in different towns, hundreds of kilometers apart. Later, they switched to a full evacuation, which added to the confusion. This was 2011, so the urgency, and this is so just rational thinking, rational movement, rational just go, and then look what happened. So, and it is consistent to the apparent nonlinear relationship between urgency and response. How it surprised us. with the climate adaptation plans of municipal officials in New Zealand and the relocation choices of the coastal village residents. This was in Fajan. Then the water conservation behaviors of California and the decisions of the forest managers in Sweden and Canada, and in the water infrastructure investments made by Dutch and the Danish city governments. Now, so this perceived urgency of climate change are likely to lead some people to take less action, especially those already most worried about climate change and those who feel least capable of taking meaningful action to address it. Now, the implications for climate communication, emphasizing climate risk and isolation from potential solutions, or a sense of hope may be counterproductive. And this is especially true if those most likely to encounter climate alarmism are already those most concerned about climate change. So, Earth Day every year. Would we do better to pair our warnings about the risk of climate change with images of the alternate world we might construct together? More walkable streets, less air pollution, and a global climate system that can provide the same stability to our children and our grandchildren as for them um, when they grow up. The alarm bells have been sounding. And what urgency level are we at? What urgency levels are at the government's at? Has Canada, is Canada going to meet their target on reducing of the green gas emissions? They want to be 17% lower than what we were in 2015. This is 2023, and we're only like 1.3%. I mean, it's sad. And then we holler at the government of adding in this carbon tax at the fuel pumps. So what are you doing with our money? They want to hit a certain target by 2030. It'd be something like 20% less than where we were at 2015. And the rate that we're moving at, highly unlikely that's going to happen. With and this here in Southern Ontario, yeah, it's been hot. Um, we've had a lot of rain. It's like, I mean, I'm sitting here now, and just a week ago, I was up north on holidays, and the week before that, I was up north on holidays, and it was like it's the most wet, hot, humid summer that I have felt in a long time. So for instance, last week, Wednesday and Friday were the only 2 sunny days. And the week before that, it was like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday were the sunniest days. Thus, it was just, it was cloudy, it was hot, it was humid, it rained. We had a thunderstorm come when we were at the 2 weeks ago when we were at the cottages. A thunderstorm come through with just high winds and hail. And I've been going to the place that we go to for many years, and it's never hailed. Yeah, we've had some thunder showers, sure, you know, but hail, almost, as the, what's the biggest marble? I think it's rock. Hail that big, coming down, and we have a covered porch on the cottage, and you're standing in that, and you're just watching this hail come down, and as the whole ground is covered. Must have lasted for like 5 minutes, so it seemed like it lasted that long, you know. And then when it stopped, you go out and you can just pick up handfuls of it. And of course, over the 900. I don't know the exact number. They just said it's over 900 forest fires, and over 500 of them are burning out of control here across Canada. Alberta, Northern Ontario, and Northern Quebec. Never, never, ever has it been that bad when it comes to forest fires. Here in Canada, yeah, we get forest fires like everybody else, but not this severe. With the with the dryness, the storms, the lightning, and that's all it takes. You know, we haven't heard of any. None of the fires have been, were arson. All the fires that started here in Canada is all weather related. So I guess we got some things to think about. You know, look what's I mean, this is still summertime, obviously, and I don't know when your hurricane season starts in the United States, probably somewhere around November or something. Wait and see. And those hurricanes are getting more nasty. Your tornadoes are getting more nasty. Oklahoma, Texas, Tornado Alley. We the people, we're not governing, you know, our state or our province and stuff like that. I mean, we vote people in to do the job they're supposed to be doing. We have political problems here, like you have in the United States and in any other democratic country. We have to hold our politicians accountable because we're the people who put them there. That's why we vote. And then we expect something, right? We give you a job, we expect something in return. We expect you to do your job. We expect people to listen to the science. Because politicians, as far as I'm concerned, politicians know shit. It's the scientists, the science. that knows what's going on, and it's the science and the scientists that is sounding the alarms on climate change. Like I said at the start of the show, you can believe whether it's real or it's not. That's entirely up to you. But I want to thank you tonight for joining me here on the Truckers Podcast. I will be back out tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So that's Wednesday. Kind of losing a day today. I can't believe tomorrow's already Wednesday. So yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'm, gathering information. Now I wanted to, I can get out of this and go here. And I want to, whoops, that's not what I want. This is what I want to. I'm going to go, I'm on YouTube right now. So, I went home. Oh, okay. This is even faster. Okay. So now I've been a trucker for 30 plus years. And with that Freedom Convoy, aka Karen Carnival, that took place last January 2022, um, there was an interview that was done recently um, by Jordan B. Peterson. He is a Canadian clinical psychologist. He's a public speaker. He's written books. And this is his first time that he's had this opportunity to sit down with one of the organizers, Tamara Litch. She's not even involved in the trucking industry. She's just she's a separatist. She's once was part of the Maverick Party and the Yellow Vest Party and just crazy shit. But anyways, so I went through this video, and the video is called "Truckers on the Front Lines of Freedom." That whole topic, that whole headline there, get that laughter. You just want to just bust out laughing. That's what I feel like right now. Every time I read that, I just want to just fall off the chair and laugh, fall down laughing. So, anyways, he's doing this interviewing her, and it is called "Truckers on the Front Lines of Freedom," and that's on YouTube. You can go onto YouTube, you can look that up, and you can and listen to this interview. And so, anyways, me being in the industry for 30 plus years, I feel that I am qualified enough, to do an episode on that particular interview and debunk everything that she's saying and backing it up with facts. So what my plan is to do is do the Truckers Podcast FYI here on Podbean, and then I will be recording the video. I got part of that video already done. It's just me in that video talking about it, and then so doing the video in the Podbean live, and then once all that video is done and edited, and then I can upload it onto YouTube. And then all you have to do is go on YouTube and go to search the Truckers Podcast FYI, and it'll be up there. And I'm hoping to get that up there Saturday afternoon or early Saturday evening. So, this is what I want to do. So, and I think I just what I'll be doing is breaking, looking, at certain points that she is making, and then breaking them down. So I'm thinking that the episode is probably going to be. I think I could probably fit it into 45 minutes. So, and of course, I want you to join me for that because you're going to be obviously hearing me live on Podbean. And then once I get that video done, you will see me on video on YouTube. So that's going to be an upcoming episode, obviously. And of course, I'm going to alert you when that's going to take place. And of course, I'm going to be back out here tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And I will have the next episode posted up after I edit this one and put it out around the world. And then I'll have the next show up. So if you're following me on Podbean, I'm pretty sure you get a notification that the Truckers Podcast FYI has an upcoming episode. And if you can join me, that's great. If you can't, I understand. Because we all have our lives, right? We all have things to do, and that's understandable. So again, thank you for joining me this evening. It is appreciated, and I do appreciate you, my listeners, and my followers. So until tomorrow night at 9 p.m., take care and be safe and enjoy your week. And thank you. This is the Truckers Podcast, FYI. I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. Take care. Be safe.